Imagine for a second that you have like $100,000 sitting in the bank account.
Right.
It's your money, right?
Right.
You earned it. But the bank tells you that you can't use a single penny of it to buy groceries or pay for a medical emergency or fix your car.
Which is already terrifying.
Exactly. Now imagine that in exactly 20 days, that same bank is going to permanently wipe out the entire account. Just gone.
Oh, wow.
And to make it worse, they're going to ruin your financial reputation for a decade. I mean, it sounds like a dystopian nightmare.
It really does.
But that is the exact, literal reality for thousands of house-rich, cash-poor Americans right now. They're facing the brutal math of the modern housing market.
Yeah, it's a staggering scenario to find yourself in. And I think it forces us to confront a reality that completely shatters the whole traditional American dream.
The white picket fence and all that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, for decades, we've been culturally conditioned to view real estate through this deeply emotional lens, you know? A home is supposed to be a permanent sanctuary. It's this generational trophy with the golden retriever in the yard.
Right, the whole 4% mortgage dream.
Yes.
Yeah.
But the material we're analyzing today, it demands that we strip away all of that sentimentality. It forces us to look at real estate entirely differently.
As just an asset.
Right, as a highly illiquid asset that can easily trap you if the circumstances of your life suddenly change.
So to understand how a sanctuary turns into a trap, we are pulling from this really fascinating stack of guides and market analyses.
Yeah, the blueprints.
Right, operational blueprints from a family-owned cash home buying company based out in Nevada. They're called Las Vegas Sell House Fast.
So we're looking directly at their data.
Exactly. And the mission for this deep dive is to explore the mechanics of this shadow real estate market.
Yeah.
We want to figure out why a massive segment of the population is quietly bypassing traditional realtors entirely.
It's a huge shift.
It really is. We're looking at the uncompromising mathematical realities of property ownership and how treating a house purely as a liquid asset changes, well, your entire financial philosophy.
And, to understand why the shadow market even exists, we first have to look at the friction inherently built into the traditional model.
The public retail market.
Right. The public housing market is structured almost exclusively for buyers who require traditional bank financing.
Okay.
Because a bank is taking on the risk of a 30-year mortgage, they demand perfection. I mean, they will not underwrite a loan on a house with a sagging roof or a cracked foundation or even just really outdated plumbing.
So before a seller even lists the property, they're already in the hole.
Exactly. They are forced to spend massive amounts of upfront capital and time just bringing the house up to an underwriter's standard.
Which means the traditional route feels a lot like entering a high-stakes beauty pageant.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah, you have to dress the property up, maybe hire a professional staging company, put on a fresh coat of paint, fix those worn carpets, and then you just parade it under bright lights for public scrutiny.
Hoping they like it.
Right. You endure 30 to 90 days of strangers walking through your living room, and you basically just have to hope that the judges, the buyers, give you a high score.
And that their financing doesn't fall through at the last minute.
Yes. But while you are waiting for that score, the clock is ticking and you are bleeding capital.
The carrying cost drain.
Exactly.
Yeah, that is the silent killer of real estate profits. Every single month, your property sits on the multiple listing service waiting for a buyer. You are personally liable for the mortgage.
And the property taxes.
Right, the property taxes, the homeowner's insurance, the HOA fees, the utilities. It all adds up.
Especially in a fluctuating market like Vegas.
Oh, absolutely. If the market in Clark County suddenly cools off because macroeconomic interest rates ticked up, your house might sit there for 4 months.
Just burning cash.
Exactly. Those carrying costs eat directly into whatever theoretical maximum profit you are targeting when you set your listing price.
I see.
So you might sell for top dollar on paper, but your net yield after carrying costs and realtor commissions tells a vastly different story.
Okay, let's unpack this, because this explains why the cash buyer process, what the sources call the third option, is so structurally different.
It's completely different.
Right. If traditional real estate is a beauty pageant, this shadow market operates like a Formula One pit stop.
Purely about speed.
Exactly. Speed and brutal efficiency. It's a 5-step process. A seller reaches out, the company does a rapid property assessment, and they provide a firm cash offer within 24 to 48 hours.
It's incredibly fast.
Insanely fast. Then the seller can select a closing date and be completely done with the property in as little as 7 days. Just close and get paid.
No staging.
No public showings, no waiting. But How does that mechanism actually work? I mean, how are they
Yeah.
bypassing the bank's demands for a perfect roof?
Well, they bypass the bank because they actually are the bank.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Cash buyers are utilizing private or institutional capital, which completely removes the retail underwriter from the equation.
That makes sense.
Since they aren't relying on a bank's approval to fund the purchase, they don't care if the carpet is torn or if the HVAC system is broken.
They just buy it as is.
Exactly. They operate on a completely different business model. They are underwriting for risk rather than underwriting for perfection.
Right.
So they purchase the property as is, usually at a discount, explicitly assuming the financial risk of those repairs themselves.
So it's a trade-off.
Yes. In exchange for absorbing that risk and providing the seller with immediate liquidity, they acquire the asset below retail market value.
So the homeowner is fundamentally making a trade.
All right.
They're trading the potential of maximum market value for absolute certainty.
Exactly. What's fascinating here is that in this market, certainty is the premium commodity.
Right.
When you accept a firm cash offer, you know exactly how much capital will hit your account and on what specific day.
No guessing games. None. And for a homeowner dealing with highly volatile life circumstances, that level of predictability is infinitely more valuable than rolling the dice to squeeze an extra 5% out of a retail buyer 3 months down the line.
Which brings us to the circumstances where certainty isn't just a preference, right? It's a strict legal necessity.
Yes, the clock is ticking.
Exactly. Speed goes from being a luxury to a literal lifeline when we look at the foreclosure data in Nevada.
The foreclosure timeline is really where the illusion of being house rich completely falls apart.
How so?
Well, you can have $80,000 of equity locked inside your home, but it functions exactly like a steel vault with a time delay lock.
Oh, man.
Right. If you lose your job and can't make the mortgage payment, the wealth inside that vault is completely inaccessible.
You can't just hand the bank a brick of your house.
Exactly. You cannot use home equity to stop the bank from seizing the asset. You need liquid cash, and you need it before the clock runs out.
Let's walk through that timeline, actually, because the sources break down the math, and it is brutally unforgiving.
It really is.
So when a homeowner falls behind on payments in Nevada, the lender issues a notice of default, an NOD.
Right.
From the exact moment that piece of paper is filed, the homeowner has exactly 115 to 120 days until the foreclosure auction.
Which sounds like a lot of time, but it's not.
Right. On paper, 4 months sounds like a decent runway to get the house sold. But if we go back to our beauty pageant analogy,
The 30 days to fix it up.
yes, 30 days to fix it, 60 days sitting on the market, 30 days for the buyer's escrow to clear, that 115-day window is incredibly tight.
It is impossibly tight if you experience even a single delay.
And if you fail to sell the home or cure the default within that specific window, you hit the absolute cliff edge.
Do you have NTS?
Yes, the notice of trustee sale. Once that document is recorded, you have precisely 20 days until your house is auctioned off on the courthouse steps.
20 days.
Staring down a 20-day countdown to losing everything. I mean, the psychological weight of that must just be paralyzing.
Because it's not just losing the house.
No, if that clock hits 0, a foreclosure acts as a financial nuclear bomb. It obliterates your credit score for the next 7 to 10 years.
You're functionally locked out of the financial system.
Right. You lose the house, you lose whatever equity was in the vault, and your credit is destroyed for a decade.
Which is exactly why a traditional retail sale is mathematically useless at day 10 of a notice of trustee sale window.
You just don't have the time.
Exactly. You cannot list, show, secure a retail buyer and get a bank to underwrite a new loan in 10 days.
It's physically impossible.
The traditional market completely fails the consumer in this scenario. But a cash buyer, because they control their own capital, can close in 7 days.
So they can actually beat the clock.
Yes, they can step in, purchase the property, wire the funds directly to the lender to pay off the mortgage balance, and legally halt the foreclosure process dead in its tracks.
Wow, so it functions as an emergency ripcord.
That's a perfect analogy.
You pull it right before you hit the ground. You might walk away with less cash than if you had sold it perfectly a year prior, but you extract whatever equity is left.
And you save your credit.
Exactly. You save your credit from a 10-year death sentence, and you survive the crash.
Surviving the crash is really the unifying theme here, because a financial crash doesn't just come from job loss or missed mortgage payments.
Right. There are emotional clocks, too.
Yes. Sometimes the crash is structural. As we look deeper into the transaction data from Las Vegas Sell House Fast, a massive volume of these fast cash sales are triggered by life's messy, unpredictable transitions.
The really complicated stuff.
Exactly. We are talking about divorce, complex inheritances, and drastic downsizing.
Divorce makes total sense, especially in a state like Nevada. It is a community property state.
Which means a 50-50 split.
Right. If a couple divorces without a prenup, assets are split right down the middle. And if a couple is splitting up, the house is almost always the largest, most illiquid asset they share.
And the hardest to divide.
Totally. The traditional route forces two people who probably do not want to be in the same room to collaborate on staging budgets, listing strategies, and negotiating offers for months.
It just elongates the emotional trauma of the separation.
Exactly.
Neither party might have the liquidity required to just buy the other spouse out.
Right.
And keeping the house pristine for public showings while navigating the logistics of a divorce is agonizing.
I can't even imagine.
So the shadow market steps in and offers a clean, immediate severing of that joint financial obligation. They liquidate the asset in a week, the proceeds are cleanly divided, and both parties get a fast, uncomplicated break.
Okay, that makes perfect sense for a divorce, but
Okay.
here's where it gets really interesting. I have to push back when we get to the inheritance side of this,
Okay, why?
because I genuinely don't get it. The sources detail a booming market for inherited homes in transient cities like Vegas. But wait a minute.
Yeah.
If a distant relative passes away and leaves me a property, I have literally just won the lottery, right? I've been given a free house.
On paper, sure.
So why on earth would you sell it at a discount just to be rid of it? Why not keep the free house?
Well, it sounds like a lottery ticket until you actually look at the mechanics of inheriting real estate. And this is what the cash buyer market understands
Yeah.
deeply.
Oh.
A free house is almost never actually free
Why not?
because inheriting real estate means inheriting massive liabilities. First, you have to navigate probate.
Oh, the legal process.
Right. The legal process of transferring ownership, which can easily take months and cost thousands of dollars in legal fees. But more importantly, you are inheriting the physical and financial realities attached to that specific structure.
Wait, you mean like back taxes?
Unpaid property taxes, deferred maintenance, or even mechanics liens.
Mechanics liens, what's that?
Let's say your relative hired a contractor to fix the roof 3 years ago and never paid the final bill.
Oh, no.
That contractor can legally place a mechanics lien on the property, which literally attaches their debt to the home's title.
Wait, really?
Yes, you physically cannot sell that house to a traditional buyer until you pay off that debt out of your own pocket.
Wow. Okay, so I inherit the house, but I also inherit the debt that comes with it.
And the physical deterioration.
Right.
Think about it. If you live in Ohio and inherit a 1980s vacation home in Vegas that hasn't been updated in 30 years, you cannot just list it on the MLS.
Because it's a mess.
Right. A retail buyer won't touch it, and a bank won't finance a mortgage on it.
So I have to fix it.
You now have to manage a massive, highly expensive renovation project from 2,000 miles away just to make it sellable.
That sounds like a nightmare.
Or, even more complicated, consider inheriting a rental property with difficult tenants who stopped paying rent 6 months ago.
Oh my God.
You are instantly an out-of-state landlord facing a protracted, expensive, legal eviction battle.
I see. So the asset isn't a windfall at all. It's a second job.
Exactly.
And if I don't have the time or the capital to do that job, the house is just actively draining my resources.
Precisely. An illiquid asset that you are fundamentally unprepared or geographically unable to manage is a severe burden, not a gift.
And that's where the cash buyers come in.
Right. Cash buyers specialize in acquiring that specific burden. They buy the home as is, absorbing the mechanics liens, the terrible roof, and even the hostile tenants.
They just take the whole problem off your hands.
Exactly. They take on the operational headache, and in return, you get immediate liquid capital without having to manage a cross-country renovation.
That completely shifts the perspective on what ownership really means. And we see the exact same pattern in the material regarding downsizing retirees.
Oh, definitely.
A couple might have loved their sprawling 4-bedroom house for 3 decades, but eventually the yard work is literally breaking their backs.
The maintenance gets to be too much.
Right, and the property taxes are eating up their fixed retirement income. They need to trade their physical footprint for liquid relief, and they simply don't have the energy to navigate a 90-day traditional sale process.
And when you aggregate all of these scenarios, the impending foreclosures, the complex divorces, the burdensome inheritances, the downsizing,
Yeah.
It really forces a macro-level reevaluation of modern homeownership.
How does knowing all of this change the whole rent versus buy debate?
Well, the material presents a surprisingly blunt financial philosophy.
What is it?
Money is a tool, not a trophy.
That phrase, money is a tool, not a trophy.
Mm,
That really stood out in the reading.
it's powerful.
Because we have all heard the standard advice, usually passed down from our parents, that renting is just throwing your money away.
Right, the old narrative.
Yeah, that buying a house is the only legitimate path to building wealth. But the sources suggest that narrative is wildly outdated.
And frequently pushed by the very people who rely on real estate commissions to make a living.
Exactly. So what does this all mean? Should we stop listening to that advice?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, the 1985 playbook of buying a home, staying at the exact same company for 40 years, and slowly paying off a 30-year mortgage.
The classic American dream.
Right. That relies on an economic environment that has largely evaporated.
It just doesn't exist anymore.
No. Today's economy is defined by rapid volatility. Opportunity costs are incredibly real. If you lock all of your net worth into a single, highly illiquid asset, you completely sacrifice your agility.
Right. Because if you buy a home believing it's the ultimate financial goal, but 2 years later your industry pivots and you need to relocate across the country for an incredible new job opportunity.
You're stuck.
Yeah, that house is no longer a sanctuary. It is an anchor keeping you from moving forward.
No.
Or if you need capital to start a business, but all your wealth is trapped inside that equity vault.
You don't have any options.
Exactly.
So the decision to rent or buy should not be driven by the sentimental pursuit of a white picket fence. It needs to be a ruthless calculation of your 5-year horizon.
Just looking at the actual math of your life.
Yes. If your career trajectory, your relationship status, or your financial goals demand high mobility and liquidity, renting is not throwing money away.
You're buying flexibility.
Exactly. You are paying a premium for flexibility. You are keeping your capital liquid so it can be deployed instantly when opportunities or emergencies arise.
It means viewing real estate as a tradable asset rather than a permanent identity.
Which is a huge mental shift.
It is. If you accept that your house is just a tool in your financial toolbox, you have to acknowledge that the traditional public retail market is often too slow and too rigid for the realities of modern life.
It just doesn't work for a lot of people.
Right. And that explains the explosive, quiet growth of the cash buyer shadow market. It provides the liquidity and the speed that a volatile economy absolutely requires.
It really acts as a crucial alternative infrastructure.
Yeah. So to kind of wrap this up, as you navigate your own financial landscape, the core takeaway is to constantly evaluate your own 5-year horizon.
Exactly.
Whether you are staring at the Las Vegas skyline, deciding to renew an apartment lease right now, or you're considering scraping together a down payment for a mortgage.
You have to ensure that your assets serve your need for agility.
Right. Do not let an illiquid asset back you into a corner where you have no options. Keep your money acting as a tool.
And, it does leave us with a fascinating, broader question to consider long after this discussion ends.
Oh, what's that?
Well, if our entire culture is shifting toward this highly pragmatic philosophy, if we are collectively beginning to view homes purely as highly liquid financial tools meant to be traded quickly.
Rather than permanent generational family anchors.
Exactly. How does that alter the physical fabric of our community?
Oh, wow.
Right. If the expectation of permanence disappears, what will our neighborhoods actually look and feel like 20 years from now?
That completely reshapes the concept of a community. What happens in the neighborhood when no one plans on staying?
It's something we're all going to have to figure out.
A really provocative thought to leave off on. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive, and we'll catch you on the next one.